The world we inhabit is not as free, or certain, or safe as you might think. The things that you believe to be unassailably evident are little more than shadows dancing behind a curtain, a masquerade crafted and dutifully upheld by an organization known as the Foundation. The file you are about to hear contains containment procedures, descriptions, testing logs, historical and in some cases first-hand accounts of the anomalous objects the Foundation serves to secure, contain, and protect. Its contents have been thoroughly scrutinized by the Ethics Committee and approved by the O5 Council for release to trusted associates of the Foundation. This is SCP Unredacted. Item number SCP-5527. Level 5, Top Secret. Containment Class, Safe. Disruption Class, Dark. Risk Class, Notice. Special Containment Procedures. The remaining mass of SCP-5527 is to be kept in a refrigerated container at Site-02's morgue. Further consumption of SCP-5527 is prohibited. Description: SCP-5527 is a whale carcass, the innards of which resemble human physiology that's been augmented in a way to complement SCP-5527's shape and size. Various musculature and tissue inside SCP-5527, when applied to a living creature, would be rendered non-functional or otherwise superfluous in an aquatic environment. Aside from a thick layer of fat surrounding its innards and the size of such, SCP-5527's anatomy, including skeletal structure, musculature, and the locations of internal organs, is identical to that of a human. Carbon dating techniques have revealed that SCP-5527 is approximately 30,000 years old. Despite this, SCP-5527 has not been observed to deteriorate beyond its present state. Traces of decayed ink have been observed on SCP-5527's left iliac artery. Material derived from SCP-5527 will, upon consumption, allow for the ability to breathe in aquatic environments. This effect has been observed to last for up to 12 hours and is otherwise poorly understood. All DNA strands taken from SCP-5527 have been degraded beyond the point of analysis. Addendum 5527.1 Discovery. SCP-5527 was found on 1 January 2021 when it washed ashore on Bintan Island, Indonesia, in front of a private estate belonging to Overseer Council Member 0512, who had been residing there at the time. Upon request, SCP-5527 was transferred to Site-02 for research purposes. Addendum 5527.2 Testing Log. Test Number 1. Subject: 1 Paramyscus leucopus, white mouse. Note: Subject was prompted to consume a piece of SCP-5527's brain matter. Following consumption, it was placed in a small cage before being lowered into a tank of water. Results: Subject remained underwater for 4 hours before expiring. Signs of distress were observed throughout the process. Test Number 7. Subject: Researcher Avalon. Notes: Subject was instructed to consume a piece of SCP-5527's pectoral tissue. Following consumption, subject was placed in a cage fitted with a safety system and submerged in a body of water. Results: Subject remained underwater for 1 hour before signaling for the cage to be raised. Aside from initial difficulties adjusting to breathing in both environments, no signs of distress or discomfort were observed. Researcher Avalon was promptly interviewed and asked to describe her experience. An excerpt of her writing can be found below. You lose all sense of who you are and where you are. When I was told I only lasted an hour, I didn't know how to respond. It felt like weeks. Like I fell asleep and dreamed for a month straight. At the same time, it wasn't dreaming. I was cognizant of what was happening, and I could reflect on things as clearly as I could see them in front of me. I'd relived my life 100 times. Every regret, every moment of bliss, even the perspectives of those around me. I fixated on the parts of myself I don't like to think about. The whole time there was a stinging feeling in the back of my neck that told me I was doing something wrong. or that I'm still doing something wrong. Following the interview, researcher Avalon requested amnesticization, which was denied in order to further observe the effects of consuming SCP-5527. Test number 10. Subject: one copy of the children's book The Cat in the Hat, written by Dr. Seuss. Notes: subject was chosen due to a lack of water present in the narrative. Subject was forced to consume a piece of SCP-5527's tailbone through an anomalous process involving SCP and was then submerged for half an hour. Results: upon review, the central narrative of this copy of The Cat in the Hat had changed entirely. A summary follows. The story begins in a house of 12 unnamed nondescript children who express boredom with their current situation. A loud noise is heard from the basement and the character the Cat in the Hat emerges from the cellar door. He promises to show the children ways to occupy themselves, but the children's pet fish objects. The cat laughs and removes the fish from its bowl. He replaces the bowl's water with the liquid he pours from underneath his hat. Upon reintroducing the fish to the bowl, it drowns. The children, now ecstatic without the presence of the sole supervising force in their lives, begin to vandalize the house, breaking objects and drawing on walls, among other destructive activities. The cat offers to retrieve two beings referred to as the Things from the basement to assist with the destruction. The children become immediately frightened, some to the point of tears, and beg the cat to leave the Things where they belong. As the cat continues to threaten the children with going into the basement, an obscured figure is seen approaching the house from outside the window. The children realize the mess they've made and panic. The cat takes pleasure in their distress and retreats into the basement. The obscured figure opens the front door and the children begin to run. The book ends with a question posed to the reader. What would you do if you could know the truth? Further testing regarding SCP-5527 has been prohibited at the request of the O5 Council. Addendum 5527.3 Incident 5527 Incident Log Date 12 January 2021 At midnight 25, Overseer Council Member 0512 accessed SCP-5527's containment locker and proceeded to consume a large amount of its innards, including the entirety of its brain, heart, eyes, and skeleton. Following this, 0512 proceeded to her residence on Bintar Island, where SCP-5527 had been discovered. Surveillance cameras reveal that 0512 entered the nearby body of water and swam out an indeterminate distance, where it's assumed she submerged herself to the point of drowning. After an intensive search effort, 0512's corpse was recovered on 24 January 2021. It was found embedded in the seabed, partially buried under sand. Various lacerations and markings were observed on the cadaver, as well as its clothing. A search of 0512's residence recovered the following document, hastily composed on a napkin, following her consumption of SCP-5527. Wow! By popular demand, we've brought back a brand new set of Little Misters, a limited edition collection from Dr. Wondertainment. Find them all and become the brand new Mr. Collector. Mr. Prologue, Mr. Dark, Mr. Remembrance, Mr. Toxic, Mr. Collector, Mixed Voltage, Gears, Mr. Memory, Mr. Nobody, Mr. Brainy, Ms. Seraph, Mr. Chronal and Mr. Dimension, Mr. Fish, and Mr. Epilogue. Research efforts into the context of this document and the name Dr. Wondertainment remain active. Thank you for listening to this podcast. If you like what you hear, follow the link in the description to patreon.com/scpunredacted and help support me by becoming a patron for as little as $3 a month. You can get access to production logs, merchandise, recognition, and even a part in a skip. Regardless of tier, all patrons get early access to every single episode. I don't have the talent it takes to write a skip. All I do is read. Original authors make this podcast possible, so credit to the original author. Their links in the description. Show them some love as well. Consider becoming a member of the SCP Wiki. Upvote their work and maybe write a skip of your own. Maybe I'll read it here someday. You never know if you never try. The content of this podcast and content relating to the SCP Foundation, including the SCP Foundation logo, is licensed under Creative Commons Sharealike 3.0, and all concepts originate from scpwiki.com and its authors. This recording, being derived from this content, is hereby also released under Creative Commons Share-alike 3.0.